Up, wizards of YouTube? We are live on twitch.tv/SVMTG dev, SVMT Jeff, with all of my people over here. I've already messed it up. That's the beauty of being live, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about some Magic cards. There are freaking 70 of them dropped on our fool heads this afternoon. A bunch of commons and uncommons, and then a fair amount of rares and mythics, too. I think there's like 17 of those by themselves. So we have got too much to go over tonight, and we're going to try to get through the commons, speed run those a little bit. There's maybe 5 uncommons that I think are ridiculous, and I want to talk about those. And then we'll spend some time on the rares and mythics, although I think that really only about 5 of those are going to be top notch. So with that said, let's get into it. Looking at all these cards, there are, again, 70 is like doing a mini speed run of like Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's half of a Spider-Man or so to do 70 cards. So wish me luck. Let's get into it with Aquatex defenses, the commons in almost no particular order here except for the last couple. So if some of these seem better to you than others, that's probably why. Aquatex defenses is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an aura that enchants a creature you control and has flash. When it enters, enchanted creature gains hexproof till EOT, and it forever gets +1/+2. So pretty cool little protection spell here, but I don't think it's going to be any better than Shore Up or the other protection spells we tend to play in Standard. The difference between 1 and 2 mana is just too crazy, I think. Although, if I had to say something positive about the card, I like the art. That's about it. I think what might be happening here is that this dude is kind of water bending in a way, right? He's taking this wave right here and he's turning it into like a hot or a hard substance to protect himself from this blast. Or he's just like using the water to protect from the blast, period. And that's dope too. So I like the sort of art direction of the card. But I think in limited, this is decent, you know? Just to counter a removal spell and make the creature even more of a headache. That ain't half bad. I'll take it there. Blighted Blackthorn has really cool art right here by Omar. He killed it. 5 mana, 4 into black for a 3/7 Treefolk Warlock. When it enters or attacks, you may Blight 2. If you do, draw a card and lose 1 life. I would prefer that you could do this on blocks. I feel like that would make more sense, right? But kind of feels like a Phyrexian Rager or whatever that thing was called. It's like 3 mana when it comes into play. Lose a life, draw a card. Feels like a version of that, but you know, you might get to draw extra cards off of it, but I'm not sure if it's ever like quite worth it, to be honest. There's a few things in limited that care about toughness. There's a few things that specifically care about the difference between a creature's power and toughness. At which point, this has a pretty decent spread, so I guess it's got that going for it. Look for little edges with this, but I'm not too impressed by it, apart from, again, oh my god, that art. Very nice, dude. Next is Blight Rot. This is 3 mana, 2 and a black for an instant. Put 4 -1/-1 counters on a dude. So, really, that's some flavor text, by the way. Read it at your own risk. But this had to be worse than Grasp of Darkness. Like mana-wise. You know, Grasp of Darkness, double black for just -4/-4 till EOT. 4 -1/-1 counters is kind of a big deal. But I think that for 3 mana to instant speed, you hope to just kill a creature. So this is a removal spell you will play in limited. And I imagine you play every copy that you get in limited. You get 3 copies, play them. Super playable removal spell, especially at the common rarity. But outside of that, there's not too much to talk about. But the art's cool. I like the color palette of the art. Brambleback Brute coming up next. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 4/5 giant warrior that enters with 2 -1/-1 counters. Pay a 1 and a red and remove a counter from it to have target creature can't block this turn. Target creature can't block this turn if you activate the ability. You can only activate it at sorcery speed. This is why when I'm not live, I often do multiple takes for a card. So I run into stuff like that. But in any case, this is kind of, again, a fine activated ability in limited. And I do kind of like, in limited specifically, I like a lot of these creatures that have a low casting cost, low-ish, you know, for their power toughness, and enter with counters on them, which you can then remove. There's a whole cycle of these, effectively. There's a fair number of them in limited, and I think they're all pretty decent, you know? Like, they'll be like a 2 mana 4/4, and if you activate its ability, it takes the counters off of it and does something beneficial. I think nearly all of these are okay, right? So, yeah, I think she's good. I think she's especially great in, like, aggressive decks in limited. I'd play her. Chitinous Graspling is 4 mana, 3 and a Simic for a 3/4 shapeshifter with Changeling and Reach next in this cycle. You've already seen a couple of these things that are like, it's a few mana for a guy. He's got Changeling and a keyword ability. Best thing about this is the RKF art. I do like, man, Margaret Organ King came back. Drew Tucker came back. I like sort of all the older Magic artists that were there back in the day that I've been seeing pop back up in this set. Rebecca Gay, obviously, a big name for this set. So, yes. I like that about it. Dawn's Light Archer is 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 4/2 Elf Archer with Flash and Reach. That's the card. That's the card. Kind of a, what is that, a Pouncing Jaguar in a way, which is like higher power. Does it even have higher power? I think it's almost exactly that card. But yeah, it's fine. It's an elf. It's got Flash. Sure. Yeah. Play like a removal spell. Right? This just says destroy target attacking creature with flying. Right? There's a green spell that says that. But it can also attack. So it's just like better than a plummet or something. Yeah, sure. Furdok Core is 3 mana for a Kindred artifact. It is Kindred with Shapeshifters. That's neat. And it has Changeling. You can also tap it for a mana of any color. You can pay 4 to have it become a 4/4 artifact creature until end of turn. Nothing if not neat, but I think that's all it really is. Right? But it's cool. I like when design is neat. I think they pulled that off with this thing, but apart from that, that's it. It's just, you know, they now that I'm thinking about it, they make a number of cards in every set that are just like flavor curios, you know, like mechanical curios for the set that are like, oh yeah, that's neat. You can do that. I never thought about that. That's cool to approach it from that angle. And then you click past it and you never really think about it again. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is pretty cool. Gravelgill Scoundrel up next, 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Merfolk Rogue with Vigilance. Whenever this creature attacks, you may tap another untapped creature you control. If you do, this creature cannot be blocked this turn. So this is a payoff for all the merfolk that we see that say, like, whenever this guy becomes tapped, do something cool, you know? But this isn't much of a payoff for that. That said, a 1/3 Vigilance for 2 mana is an okay rate and limited to begin with. And if it does get in unblocked, you can still block with it. So, you know, whatever. I guess it's kind of fine. The problem is you can't block with the creature you tap down. That's why he has Vigilance. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Serviceable guy, especially if you can somehow increase his PT, you know, the Anthem or an Aura or something. I think he could be all right. Kolrath Zealot is 6 mana, 5 and a red for a 6/5 Elemental Warrior. When it enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can play that card. It also has basic land cycling for 1 and a red. These are never bad in limited. These are never bad and limited. Can I increase my volume? Sure. This is as much as I can increase my volume. Let me know if it gets uncomfortable. Let me know. But yeah, this is a nice little dude in limited, I think. Basic land cycling guys almost always are. And interestingly, this isn't a huge dude with like mountain cycling or something. Basic mountain cycling. This land cycles for anything, which is actually kind of cool, I'll say. And it's common too. Not saying it's the next big thing in Pauper or anything, but it is common. Next is Marrow Sky Swimmer. I was going to say Sky Skimmer. Marrow Sky Swimmer, another RKF banger here, ladies and gentlemen. He's working in this palette a lot in this set. 5 mana, 3 and double Azorius for a 2/2 Merfolk Soldier with Convoke. It also has Flying and Vigilance, and when it enters, create a 1/1 white and blue Merfolk creature token. You know, I was just talking about Pauper, and I don't think the basic land cycling guy sees Pauper play, but I guess it's noteworthy there is one deck that only plays like 2 lands, and it does play like basic land cycling dudes, but they're both 1 mana land cycling guys. This, on the other hand, I think looks like an okay potential Pauper thing, but I'm not sure where you would play it. There's a blue-white blink deck that plays a number of creatures, but I still don't think it actually wants to slot anything like this in. Even if you effectively get it for free, it wasn't free. You tap 5 guys down to get a 2/2 and a 1/1, and I don't know how good that is most of the time. But I do think that in limited, this is a pretty decent little guy. It kind of makes up for the fact that you convoked it into play and tap down creatures, right? That kind of puts your shields down. It makes up for that fact by giving you more bodies. Also creates 2 Merfolk, which could be good in Merfolk decks, obviously in limited. So I don't know. Merfolk looks like one of the decks that's going to have the access to like the most tokens, like Merfolks and Goblins. They have a fair amount of tokens. So maybe they convoke better than other colors, I guess is what I'm getting at. And that makes something like this better. And it also fuels future convokes, which I like. So, I don't know. Cool stuff. I should, by the way, also say that all those merfolk that want to get tapped down for some reason, like Convoke works with them too. So, and a lot of them are merfolk. Like a lot of things that want to get tapped down in the set are merfolk. So they just work better with Convoke than other creatures, right? So, you know, I see some of the sort of design theory that went into the merfolk subtype, or just creature type, in this set. And I kind of like it. And I think this guy is a decent little signpost common for the merfolk deck. And I would at least try 1 copy. I don't know. I'm interested in it. If you can turn it into a Windrake that makes a guy, I think you've won that exchange, you know. But next is Miss Meadow Council. 5 mana, 4 and a green for a 4/3 Kithkin Advisor. Costs 1 less to cast if you have a Kithkin. And when it enters, you draw a card. That's solid. You know, it's basically easy to make a 4 mana, 4 power guy that draws a card when you come into play. And I think we play those in pre-release. I'm pretty sure if you have like 4 other decently, you know, okay Kithkin you don't feel embarrassed to play, you probably slot this guy in. Although I'd say, you know, you play him no matter what, right? In pre-release, if you have 3 Kithkin in your deck, it doesn't seem like enough. But like, even if you don't have a Kithkin in play, just play your 5 mana, 4 power draw a card guy. You just do that anyway, right? Probably. Next is Reluctant Dune Guard. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 4/4 Kithkin Soldier. Enters with 2 -1/-1 counters. And whenever another creature you control enters while this has a -1/-1 counter on it, ditch a -1/-1 counter from the guy. So that's kind of neat. You know, this is the most straightforward version of a creature, like the kind of creature I was talking about earlier, right? Just a guy that enters, he's overstated, but he enters with counters. You can somehow get the counters off. This, very easy to get the counters off of it, just like play creatures. You know, if you play this on turn 3 and then the next turn you play a Kithkin that creates a Kithkin token or something like that, or just a creature that creates a creature token, suddenly 4/4 that you pay 3 mana for. That's pretty stout. So again, I'd probably, if I'm creature heavy enough, I'd play some copies of this guy in limited. Scarblade Scout is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 2/2 Elf Scout with lifelink. When it enters, mill 2 cards. This reminds me a bit of Mire Triton from a few years back. I believe that was a zombie, if I'm not mistaken. And I may be. But that was basically this creature, but it had it had a death touch. I think for what it's worth, it had 1 toughness as well. But that's kind of edge. But still, it was a 2 mana. When it enters, mill 2 cards, and it had death touch. I think that Mire Triton is better. Was it a zombie merfolk? It may have been. But I think Mire Triton was better than this card. I think death touch is a better ability than lifelink, all things considered. There's one use of that phrase in this video. But yeah, I think that in Mire Triton actually did see some sparing standard play, which is really why I bring the card up, why I compare them. But comparison is in fact the thief of joy. This goes better in lifelink, you know, life gain decks and stuff, but I don't think it goes in any life gaining things in standard. If there is ever something that wants you to mill and gain life at the same time it goes in, sucks you can't put it in like Hope S time and Command or something. Right, but I guess no, it still wouldn't work. But in any case, I do kind of like this creature, right? There's a 2 mana, 2/2 lifelink. I guess that's fine. I'll take the 2 mills. That's fine too. Just everything about the creature screams fine, but not super impressive. So I kind of like that it exists, but it's not like it's going to shock the world. You know what I mean? Have you considered all the things though? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. It works with well, yeah, I see that. It's like altogether, I just like this as like an anti-aggro, kind of like make sure that you get to the point in the game where you get to start doing your cool blight stuff, or, you know, have enough creatures on the table to actually take advantage of how many creatures of a certain type you have. You know, I think this kind of like is one of those checks that make sure the limited environment isn't too fast in some ways. Just a solid lifelink dude, right? But we'll see. We'll see. I think this dude is almost instantly invalidated by a lot of common and uncommon creatures in the set. That are huge. You know, they might come into play with -1/-1 counters, but they will quickly become 6/6s or 4/5s or whatever. So we'll see how good something like this actually is. Next is Spiral into Solitude, a pacifism effect. 2 mana, 1 and a white for an R that enchants a creature. That creature cannot attack or block. Stop me if you've heard that one before. Pay 1 and a white and blight 1 and sack this aura to exile the enchanted creature. So we see these every now and again, pacifisms that have some sort of on-ramp to getting rid of the creature forever. These can be okay in limited, but they almost never break through, right? But still, you know, common pacifism effect in limited. This is one of those that I'd play every copy. Seriously, if I ended up with 5 copies in my pre-release pack, I would play all 5 of them in my deck. And by the way, pro tip, you can do that. Did you know? Did you know that limited does not have like a 4 of limit? I hope that they haven't changed that since the last time I did that at a pre-release. But in a pre-release, if you get 5 copies of a card for whatever reason, you can play 5 copies of a card. You can do that. You just do that. So, and I have. I played 5 copies at, oh my God, was it Gate Crash or something? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know if it was Gate Crash. But I played 5 copies of a 2 mana Orzhov color. It is a white and a black for a 2/1 like vampire that has extort or something. And I played 5 copies of that guy at a pre-release once because I was told I could. Damn it. But they haven't changed it. Good. You can still do that. Just making sure I wasn't giving like wrong advice. But yeah, again, if I open 5 copies of this in pre-release, I would, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely play all 5 copies. This is a fantastic removal spell. Stratosaur is 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 3/5 elemental with flying. When it enters, a creature gains flying till end of turn. It also has basic land cycling for 1 and a blue. So a little cycle of these like big-ish dudes. But I could see actually just like casting this. Again, at pre-release especially. I could see just casting this card. and having a 3-power flyer for the rest of the game. That also maybe gets, you know, a 4-power guy through with flying. You know, it could work. Like, I would play this dude all day. He's got like 2 useful cases on him for sure. Tributary Vaulter has wild art, man. Tiffany cooked on this one. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 1/3 Merfolk Warrior with flying. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, another target Merfolk you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So see, this works with that 2-drop earlier that goes unblockable. Get in for 3 damage, baby, when you tap this guy down. Let's go. That's kind of cool. A 3 mana 1/3 flyer is kind of something anyway in limited. So I don't know. It's not a bad creature. All things when you think about it. Let's move on to Unforgiving Aim here by one of the last commons. Yeah, we'll get into, I think, the best commons of the day after this. Unforgiving Aim is 3 mana, 2 and a green for an instant. Choose one of these. Destroy target creature with flying, or destroy target enchantment, or create a 2/2 black and green elf creature token. Now, I said we get into the best commons of the day after this. This is obviously one of the best commons of the day, right? This is kind of above everything we've looked at so far, I think. Shane, thank you very much for the 63 months. That's so many months. That's like 5.5 years, man. It's incredible. Thank you. But yeah, this is Plummet, or one part of Naturalize, the enchantment killing half. Or just like a flash 2/2, you know? I think altogether that's a good card, you know? Like, I don't think I'm playing it in standard or anything like that, but it's an instant, you know what I mean? Like, it's a body on an instant. If it doesn't do anything else, it at least is a body. That's pretty good Magic card, you know? If lately, especially, I feel like in the last like 4 years, they've been printing a lot of these like main deckable plummets. At least main deckable in like draft, or main deckable in limited. And this is like one of the best ones I've ever seen. So yeah, hell of a Broken Wings. We've come from Broken Wings to this. And you will just never, ever not have a use for this card. I think it's wonderful. Really, I do. But next is Wild Unraveling. It's after this card. But I guess you could make an argument for this too. Double blue for an instant as an additional cost to cast this spell. Blight 2 or pay 1 mana. Counter target spell. So we've got our Strictly Better cancel of the set in disguise here. You know, it wants to trick you into thinking this is just a normal counter spell for 2 mana. Nah, it's probably not. In blue decks especially, it's going to kind of be tough for this to not just read Sacrifice a Creature, which you might want to do from time to time. You know, I love sacrificing creatures, so I could see it happening. But I think a lot of decks are, you know, Blight 2 is just going to read kill a guy on your side of the table. And in some blue decks, you can't. You just can't Blight 2. You're like, I don't have a guy on the table. What do you think I'm kind of guy poor right now, you know? Mana rich, card rich, guy poor. So, you know, I'm not sure how good Blight 2 actually is on this thing. So I just kind of look at this like a cancel. I'd give this like a 3.7, you know? It's definitely not counter spells. So just keep that in mind. But I still think you play it. Right? I think you just play the card. Again, I'm talking about limited here specifically. And if you need counter spells, you could do worse than cancel most of the time. But now we get to the best commons of the day. I think there are 3 of them. Here's Gold Meadow Nomad. This is a single white mana for a 1/2 Kithkin Scout. You can pay a white and exile it from your yard to make a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token at sorcery speed. Now, I don't love the sorcery speed on this, but honestly, I think it's better than it looks. This is like my better than it looks common of the day right here. You know, if you mill this into your yard for whatever reason, it's just a guy. You can just play it out of your yard, effectively. Just play the guy out of your yard at that point. And I like stuff like that. You know, it feels like Narcomoeba-ish or something, if anybody gets that reference. So I like it in these self-milled decks. I also like that it's think about it like this. Think about it like a Doom Traveler, right? Or like an Infestation Sage, like that kind of creature. The problem is you have to pay the mana for it. The good thing about that is you can actually look at this in a positive light. If I sacrifice a Doom Traveler, I get a guy. I immediately get a 1/1 token, right? This guy, I can time when I get the 1/1 token a little more easily. And I don't know, there's probably good things about that. You know, if you're setting up for like one big turn where you get a bunch of creatures into play at the same time, Alpha Strike. Like there might be reasons why you'd want to kind of have it in your hand. You know? Like think about the arena. I think the arena illustrates this pretty well, actually. And it doesn't do too much well, but it does this well. If this card's in your graveyard, it will be in kind of the exile zone of cards you can play. And I always felt like that zone illustrates like, okay, this card that's in your graveyard is actually kind of in your hand. And I think that's really powerful in some ways. Like, all you get out of it is a 1/1, right? Yeah, so you save it for your alpha turn. Yeah, Rin, exactly. Exactly. It's fine, but not exciting. Yeah, I'll say that much. But I am in some ways excited by creatures like this. You know, like little role players that'll have like a spot in some weird thing, but maybe not. There's not a whole lot of self-milled decks that include planes. You know what I mean? Nowadays. So maybe not, but it is. I think this is solid. I do think this is a solid little creature that probably has tricks. I think it has tricks. You know, like you play it early, and then later when you have your War Leader's Call or your Impact Trimmers or whatever it is, like set up, then you play it out of your yard and you get that value. So I don't know. Maybe. Oh, or one more thing. You're like Imadane's Recruiter turn. You know, there's a thing we'll look at once we get to the rares and mythics. It'll be 3 hours from now. But there's a thing once we get to the rares and mythic that kind of feels like an Imadane's Recruiter dupe a little bit in Boros. And cards like that, right? This could work well with, because you get to set up that turn where like everything has haste. Cool. I'll get this guy out of the graveyard, this guy out of the graveyard, this guy out of the graveyard. Recruiter, swing for 1 million. So like, again, it could work out. It could. But next is Enraged Flamecaster. This is 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 3/2 elemental sorcerer with reach. Whenever you cast a spell, mana value 4 or greater, this creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. Now, do we all remember how Up the Beanstalk was worded? This is not Up the Beanstalk. We're not going to do that. It's not really beans or anything, but I think this is maybe the Commander comment of the day. I'll put it that way. There are plenty of ways in Commander that you can cheat and only pay a couple of mana, or in some cases, you know, pay nothing for cards that cost that'll fulfill this value. You know, Force of Will or Flare of Malice, you know, like these free spells come to mind. What am I thinking? Slaughter, right? I think it's called Slaughter. Snuff Out. Snuff Out is the card I'm thinking of. Slaughter, though, too. Slaughter from Exodus also works. But Snuff Out also works as a free, you know, 4 mana spell. So all of that works with this. And I actually think that in some Commander decks, even the Commander decks that are doing this honestly, like they're literally playing 4-drop spells, you can actually kind of do some work here. You know, this guy can throw some elbows in those decks and probably proc, like, I don't know, like if he procs like 4 times, how hard was that actually in Commander? And he's dealt, you know, 8 damage to everybody at that point. So I think that's kind of cool. Works with Mono Red Tanic Brawl. Yeah, actually, when you think about it, he works with Warp, right? In a similar way that Beans would. So that's a very cute interaction right there. I just kind of really like this dude. I don't know how good it's going to be, because when you look at it for like limited, I'm not too sure, but there is kind of a theme in Elementals that wants you to cast big spells. This works with that. It could help, but I think more for Commander, where like you can kind of plan out turns where you just rattle off like 4 cost spells in a row that didn't really cost you 4. You know what I mean? Like this guy's awesome in that. So could work out. Kind of a gutter snipe, you know, Steez in that case. Yeah. 2 toughness kind of meh. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, gutter snipe has 2 toughness for the same rate and it's played in Commander. I don't know. I could see it. But next and last comment of the day is Auntie's Sentence with beautiful, it's great art here by Vincent Christians. This is I don't know if I got his name right, but this is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a sorcery. Choose one. Either target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-land permanent from it, player discards that card, or target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. My goodness. So I want to point out real quick, it's really easy to scan this card and just read Pilfer or Thoughtseize, but that's not what this is. This says non-land permanent, so you're not getting instants or sorceries out of their hand, but that's it. I mean, you can get literally anything else out of their hand. So you can't take the removal spell, which is often what a discard spell will do early game. You know, like if you went Deep Cavern Bat on turn 2 or something, then you cast this on turn 3, you might be looking to take the removal spell from them, right? So you can't do that with the most. Well, you can take like Nowhere to Run. Like there are removal spells you can take of this, I guess. That's true. You can take the Virtual Persistence, I guess. So there is that. But in any case, I think that the versatility on this is so incredibly high, even at sorcery speed. I acknowledge the sorcery speed. It's there. But I do think that this could be playable. Absolutely. Yeah, does modal really justify the cost plus speed? That's kind of what I'm getting to here. I don't know how much play this ends up seeing. Right? But one thing I know is that there are a number of decks in Standard that are creature-based, that this is a decent removal spell against. And there are a number of decks in Standard that are not creature-based, and that this is still a decent spell against, right? So, this is not necessarily incredible against Monument, right? So there's that. But against a lot of decks, I think this is okay. This is okay. But we'll see. This is the one that I'm most on the line about, whether it's truly Standard playable. I don't know that we got a truly Standard playable common today. But if there's one that's on the line, it's this one. I think. A lot of versatility. And the good thing, specifically, it's not just versatility for versatility's sake. And it gives me something to hide behind. In this case, I think that it's the kind of versatility that is good against, either mode is good against literally any deck. And not all modality comes down to that. I'm playing against control first mode, playing against aggro second mode, playing against mid-range. We'll see. Either mode is usable. So yeah, I'm kind of into it. I got to say, I might actually rate this card like a 5.3 or something if I was going to rate it, but we'll get to that again soon. I don't think we'll wait till next Thursday to rate every card in the set. I think I might do it Monday or Tuesday. I really may, but let's move on here to the Unks. Just like me, I identify with them, the Unks. There are more of these. I think there are more of these than anything else today. So let's get on through these. Again, no particular order except for maybe the last 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really the last 6. I like a lot more, but let's go through these, see what's going on. We got Bold Weir Aggressor. Let's out the gate with a banger here. I like this thing. This is 5 mana, 3 in double red for a 2/5 giant warrior with double strike. Other giants you control have double strike. Other changelings you control have double strike. I actually think at this point in Magic history, there's a ton of giants. You know what I mean? There's so many giants in Magic now. And in Commander, this bangs. This pulls its pants down and bangs. This is a good little card right here, man. And I do think that maybe in Standard there's a way to make it work. We might have enough changelings. We might have enough giants and changelings together. 5 mana is so much, but this has so much effect on the game state. The turn it comes down, if you have 2 giants on the table, this thing goes hard. The moment it hits the table. So, ooh, I like it. As far as uncommons go, I didn't make it one of the best of the day. But this is one that kind of caught my eye a good bit. So, also, big lady. All I want to do is see you turn into a giant woman. A giant woman. Here's Klacken Festival right here. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a Kindred enchantment with the Kithkin. This has when this enchantment enters, create 2 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature tokens. You could also pay 5 mana, one of it white, to make a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. I guess it does give you 2 guys when it comes in. And then it sits there and gives you more guys. But what this actually looks like more than anything is signpost-ish uncommon for Kithkin decks in draft to make sure they have a way to continue to push board presence in the late game. Is what this actually looks like. This is kind of a panic button. You ran out of cards. And even if you are drawing cards in the late game in limited with Kithkin, it's just 1 and 2 drops that don't do too much. So you need a mana sink, right, in that deck. This really looks like it shores up some loose ends for the Kithkin deck in limited. And I think that's about as far as it goes. But it's kind of a neat little card. If you like making tokens, maybe you can make an argument, but I don't think so. Sacrifice fodder more than mana sink? Yeah, in some decks. That's true. Eclipsed Boggart, the first of the Eclipsed cycle. I think we're about to see 5 in a row. They all kind of do the same thing. Eclipsed Boggart is 3 Rakdos hybrids for a 2/3 Goblin Scout. When it enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a Goblin, Swamp, or Mountain card from among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Note that we've already seen the elemental version of this, I believe. Did something very similar, didn't it? Just got an elemental or island or a mountain. And this is that. But for goblins, we got the same thing with Eclipse Elf. This is Elf, Swamp, or Forest. We got Eclipsed Kithkin, which is Kithkin Forest or Plains. And we got Eclipsed Marrow, which is Merfolk, Plains, or Island. Now, some of these cost less than others, you may notice. They all have different powers and toughness. Eclipsed Boggart costs 3. It's all hybrid mana. It's a 2/3. Elf is also, the same total power and toughness, but it's a 3/2 instead of a 2/3. It's also 3 hybrids. Now, Eclipsed Kithkin here is a 2 mana 2/1. This is the cheapest of the cycle. And to my mind, that instantly makes it the best. Seriously. I think that at 2 mana, this effect is almost playable. Especially if you are building like a Kithkin deck in Standard. I don't know how many other 2-drops are necessarily better than this. Yeah, that's a 2/1. Exactly. That's a 2 mana 2/1 draw one. Twister, ding ding. Exactly. A 2 mana 2/1 draw one's fine. But there have been a lot of creatures like this recently that didn't see all the play in the world. You compare it to like Glint Ness Crane. We have a pirate in Standard that costs 2 mana and does something similar, and it doesn't see any play. So these aren't always amazing, but it'll usually find something. Finding your 3rd land drop is important. So I don't know. I wouldn't put it past it. And the Eclipse Marrow is, again, it's 3 mana for a 2/3, all of it hybrid. So some of these are different than others in very slight ways, but I would probably play every single one of them in Limited. Again, in Limited, your 3rd land drop, extremely important, or your 4th land drop, in this case, extremely important in those environments. And it's a Merfolk, in this case, it's a Merfolk, but they will all, jive with your important creature types, and that's good. You need those. Encumbered Regery over here is 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 5/4 Merfolk soldier with 3 -1/-1 counters. Whenever this creature becomes tapped while it has a -1/-1 counter, ditch a -1/-1 counter. So again, convoking and stuff like that. Pretty good. So what do you actually come into play as? 5/4, 2/1? Yeah, yikes. So it's a 2 mana 2/1 originally. You convoke it or do other things with it. And eventually you pay 2 mana for a 5/4, which I think is an incredible investment. I've already made that clear today. I think that these are fantastic creatures. I really, in Limited, right? I think these are wonderful. So play them. Next is Gnarlbark Elm. Speaking of fantastic Limited creatures, my goodness. So this is 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 3/4 Treefolk Warlock that enters with 2 -1/-1 counters. You can pay 2 and a black and remove those 2 -1/-1, or remove 2 counters from him, period, to have a creature get -2/-2 till end of turn at sorcery speed. The sorcery speed is, a little bit situation dampering, but I still think this is good as an uncommon and Limited. We'll never play it anywhere outside of there. Please don't get me wrong. I get too excited about Limited cards, but I think in Limited this is strong, dude. Yeah, Gnarls Barkley, baby, right here. I've already called a couple of cards in this set, Gnarls Barkley. And Wizards, obviously. Come on, Gnarlbark. Come on, Gnarlbark. Come on. Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that combination of words? But anyway. Yeah, I think this is wonderful. I think this is a body on a removal spell. Those are almost always good. I'd play this. I'd play 3 copies of this. I think it's fantastic. Next is Grave Shifter, a take on Grave Digger. 4 mana. Actually, I think this might be a reprint. 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 2/2 Shapeshifter with Changeling. When it enters, you may return a creature card from your yard to your hand. So just strictly better Grave Digger. But again, I think this is a reprint. With the best art it's ever had. Look at Deborah Garcia. Look at her go. Look at the color palette on this. Look at all the different little pops of color. Look at how the stonework looks, and look at the mountain with the sun coming in from the background. Look at the little guy. I haven't pointed out the little guy here. But again, look at the use of color. Look at the purple pops coming out of this urn here. Look at the yellow, green, blue. I dare say Foglio-esque. Foglio-esque here, and that is high praise coming from me. It is. But next is Kindle the Inner Flame. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a Kindred sorcery with Elemental here. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it has haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sack the token. You can flash this back by paying 1 and a red and beholding 3 elementals, so it's not Dread Return. It's certainly not. If you have 3 elementals, it's likely that you'll want to copy one of them, right? Is this spell good? I haven't asked the audience yet. I don't want you to rate this spell, audience. We will get there when we get there in a few days' time. For now, yes or no, basically. Say good or bad. Is this card we're talking about everywhere, not just limited. Is this card good or bad? I want to know while I sing a little bit of music. so that you guys have time to reply in the chat. Don't you wish you were here if you're watching on YouTube? Don't you wish you were here if you're watching on your phone? Don't you wish you were here? Cause they saying stuff. They saying stuff in chat. That flashback is the first thing that they said. And somebody else said, I think it is. I want to see it in modern with Risen Reef. That's somebody using the noodle right there, baby. And they also said good right after that. Blair Mountain said no. CLH35, you said great in Omnath Elementals. There's a place for it. If you somehow manage to cast and flash it back on the same turn, it's still bad, says Twister. Wow, that did not go where I thought it was going. King Bob the first time they've said anything in our chat. Yes, in limited, no everywhere else. Courage Pack says at 6 mana solid in red-green elementals. Yeah, I like how some people are thinking here that this kind of costs 6. A little bit. You want to do it twice in the same turn, and you might. Omnath, Titania, Risen Reef, Subtlety, Endurance, Springheart, and Antuco. Rin Matthews going off. They know they got a lot more cards in their Commander Rolodex than I do. Say that. Good job, buddy. You should be in my seat. Good in the Big C, bad in Standard, Trap in Limited. Now, Lily Vaunt, I think you might be the voice of reason. Hey, it's that one card from the big score. Kind of a little bit, right? Molten Duplication, right? Ding. Again, bing bang. Madocaster. I was also thinking of Molten Duplication, which is like $6. But that might be because it's a big score card, and they're all mythic and hard to come by. But people do play Molten Duplication, and it's that, but twice. Is that card twice? It's dope. What I think you actually want to do with this is pitch it into your yard somehow. Mill it or discard it. There's so many ways in red to just ditch this card from your hand. And now it's 2 mana. Now it costs 2 mana. Great in modern? No, I'm not sure. The thing with this, the thing that might make it okay in older formats is obviously the incredibly low flashback cost, mana-wise. The thing that might make it tough is that you have to have 3 elementals out at the same time to do that. Or in your hand. A couple of them can be in your hand. 1 or 2 can be out. I think that's easier said than done for sure, but I think on big turns where you hope to win the game anyway, a part of that might be having the 3 elementals out, right? And you flash this back and you go crazy. So I like it. I like it a good bit, especially in these elemental piles where like some of your elementals are guys with Convoke, and if you copy them, then they get to Convoke again. Like they get to do their, not Convoke, Evoke. They get to do their, ETB trigger again when you copy them. That's going to be great. So I think that I'm an old school Magic player. I've been at this for close to 30 years. And cards like this, there's no in between. It either never sees play ever, or it's crazy. Like it's just absolutely insane what this card does. I'm going to not err on the side of caution with this. I'm going to say this is a good card. I don't know if it ever really shows up in Standard, or how long it takes to do so. But I think that there could definitely be something here. Again, the thing that'll keep it back is the 3 elementals clause on the flashback, but I still don't think that might, at the end of the day, it might still be easy enough to make work. So I like it. I think as a combo piece, maybe, or just an OTK piece, this could be pretty good. It's exactly the kind of card you have to look after. But Trap and Limited, I agree with. Good in Commander, probably, right? But I will say, as far as bad in Standard, I'm not there yet. I'm not at good in Standard either. But I do think there could be something to this. I really do. Rotten Mouth Viper, Noodle using it. Anyway, move on to Kithkeeper, the freakiest looking card in the set. Oh my God, I know it's here to help this Kithkin, flavorfully. This is meant to help this Kithkin. And you can look at it, it's keeping the Kithkin up against the wall, right? Like it's making sure that it doesn't fall. That's good. However, just horrifying creature here. This is 7 mana, 6 and a white for a 3/3 elemental with Vivid. When it enters, create X 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature tokens. X being the number of colors among permanents you control. Tap 3 untapped creatures you control to give this guy +3/+0 and flying until end of turn. So this is, you could have just reprinted Cloud Goat Ranger. I kind of wanted you to. You could have. It's kind of on my list of the things I wanted in this set was Cloud Goat Ranger. And they kind of reprinted Cloud Goat Ranger and just made it terrifying. I mean, look at his little back end. Look at his little butterfly back end with the thorax or the abdomen or whatever. It's stuff like pretty wings, I guess. But oh my God, his like butterfly tongue. His like spiral tongue coming out of his deer mouth. It's like this. There's been some freaky art in this set. I can barely look at this. There's something about this that just like this. It actually horrifies me. But it's a fine card. Actually, judging it on the merits, this costs too much mana, right? It costs 7 mana. This costs 7 mana. I would jump. Yeah, I would probably take my chances with the heights in this case. But the Kithkin's gonna look over. The Kithkin's like, oh my God, I fell, but I'm okay. I'm stopped. Something stopped me. What stopped me? And it's gonna look to its right and go into shot. It's probably gonna have a heart attack the moment it looks, 45 degrees to its right. It's just the moment that thing enters your peripheral vision, you die of stroke. It's just, what is going on here? But anyway, I like Cloud Goat Ranger. I like when Cloud Goat Ranger costs 5. I don't like when it costs 7, but still, this could put an easy 3 tokens into play, and sometimes 5, right? And swing in for 6 as well. So I think this is a decent limited guy. I really do. I'm not above 7 drops at pre-release. That said, I don't want to be staring at this guy for 4 turns in a row. I'm already uncomfortable enough in the 3 minutes we've been looking at him. Let's move on. Lofty Dreams is 5 mana, 3 in double blue for an aura that enchants a creature. This has Convoke, and when it enters, you draw a card. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. This card is good. Mark my words. I think this card is quite good, actually. And I don't mean like in standard or anything. I just mean like at pre-release. I think this card's going to like straight up win games. Straight up win games, dude. There have been cards like this in the past. Why can't I remember the name of this card? I used to play it all the time, especially like Duels of the Planeswalkers 2014 on PlayStation 3, where you could do like mock drafts. I used to do those all the time. And there was a card. It was 3 and a blue for an aura that enchants a creature. Creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. I played that card in every mock draft or sealed. I think it was mock sealed that I played, that I could feasibly play it. And that card was crazy. And I still think cards like that are good and limited. A power toughness boost, plus flying, the most relevant limited ability, plus it replaces itself immediately. Awesome. Awesome. I don't think this has to cost free. I don't think you have to convoke this in for free. I think this can cost like 3 mana and be insane. Like Arcane Flight, +1/+1 and flying. No, it wasn't that card. That's just 1 blue mana. The one I'm talking about draws a card and it's 4 mana. Yeah, Convoke definitely pushes it to good. Yeah, I think again, specifically pre-release, maybe draft, maybe even though it's a more structured environment, but in pre-release, this is a card that wins games. Mark my words, dude. Mark my words. If you can actually throw this on a creature and like land it, yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. You can get blown out. Don't get me wrong. You pay 3 mana, tap 2 guys down, and like they kill your dude while this is on the stack. Like you got blown out. Yes. So there's the same risk reward that exists with every creature enchantment. But if you can stick this, you can win. Like just off of this. Rune of Flight, I feel like that wasn't it, but it may have been. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. Yeah, from Kaldheim. It wasn't from Kaldheim. It's farther back. It was farther back than Kaldheim. God, I wish I could remember this card. And it may have been +2/+2 in flying and draw a card, but I don't think so. I don't. I think it was just +1/+1 in flying and draw a card. But I'll remember it eventually. Luminalisk is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a 2/4 elemental with Death Touch. Also has Vivid. When it enters, you gain life equal to the number of colors among among permanents you control. So you always gain 1 life, right, when it comes into play. But this is probably solid-ish. We've talked about 18 to 23rd creatures a lot in this season. I think this fits the bill. If you do have a way to gain 3 off of this, I guess it's fine. But I just like Death Touch dudes. I like a Death Touch guy. Sucker, right? But a pretty normal card for the most part. Meander's Guide is up next. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 3/2 Merfolk Scout. When it attacks, you may tap another untapped Merfolk you control. When you do, return target creature card mana value 3 or less from your yard to the battlefield. Oh my God. So they were wise here. I imagine this started production as whenever this creature becomes tapped, like all the other Merfolk in the set. But now it's whenever it attacks. If it was never it becomes tapped, it'd be really good. Like really, really good. In limited. I don't know how good it would be in standard. But maybe really good because, vehicles and spacecraft. But Altogether, I think this is pretty solid. I do. I think that this is what you want in limited. Just a way to recur, you know, anytime you see one of those, especially again, at a more unstructured thing like pre-release. Yeah, this thing's at a premium. This thing's absolutely great. And imagine, okay, just to throw this out here, that you stick that +2/+2 and flying thing on this, and now you're swinging in for 5 flying every turn and reanimating a thing. So like you chump block, reanimate the guy, chump block, reanimate the guy, or whatever you're doing, just repeating ETB triggers. Like this is a solid little guy here. It really is. Next is Morkant's Loyalist here. There are 2 ways to pronounce this thing's name, really 3. One of them is Morkant, and I will never say Morkant. I am Morkan, all right? The other 2 ways, though, one of them makes it sound really, really dirty. And the other one makes it sound like I'm like recommending you read more philosophy. You know what I mean? So I'm not really sure how to say the name. 3 mana, 1, a black and a green for a 3/2 elf warrior. Other elves you control get +1/+1. And when this creature dies, return another target elf card from your graveyard to your hand. What else do you want? What else do you want? I think that Anthem effects being 3 mana nowadays, or, well, let me put it this way. When you see an Anthem effect at 3 mana nowadays, I think that is a signal that this is limited playable. Right? We don't really have a whole lot of 2 mana Anthems, whereas I feel like we had a glut of them for a couple of years there. And even 2 mana Anthems didn't necessarily make their respective creature type decks playable at times, right? And I think at 3 mana, I don't love a 3 mana Anthem anymore. I don't, especially with 2 toughness. I think that if you are elves, you are asking for some trouble if your Anthem effect can not only die to a burst lightning, right? But it costs you 3 mana. Like it dies to a burst lightning and they get 2 mana value off of it. Dies to torch the tower and they get 2 mana value off of it. Dies to dry tragic trajectory and they get 2 mana value. Come on, man, you trying to lose? So I don't know. But I guess the card is self-aware that will happen in this format. And when it does happen, it allows you to get something else back from your yard. So it kind of mitigates the fact that it knows it'll die to a burst lightning like 1,000,000 times, you know? So I guess it's got that going for it. Altogether, I'm not going to knock this card. I do think that this is really good value, but I don't think that this is necessarily telling us that Black Green Elves is going to be the next best, like, standard Kindred deck, right? So we'll see. We'll see. It might have enough value. Could be. Think it's a signpost? Yeah. Yeah, for limited, absolutely. Yeah, in like draft, if you're drafting elves, you draft every copy. Every single don't let a single one pass through your fingertips if you're drafting elves. Next is a reprint, Nameless Inversion. This is really cool art here, by the way. 2 mana, 1 and a black for a Kindred instance. Kindred with Shapeshifter. It has Changeling. Target creature gets +3/-3 and loses all creature types until end of turn. So there's a lot of art in this set that has made me think of Hades. And for some reason, this makes me think of Hades. This makes me think of Kronos from Hades 2. It's also got kind of like a Lore Olympus vibe to it. Am I crazy? Is anybody in the chat nerdy enough? Does anybody in the chat have a wife or girlfriend and thus know what Lore Olympus is? But again, I'm getting that kind of something from that, but from this. But anyway, this is fine. This is okay. So people are like, no, I have no idea what that is. I don't know what that is. But it's a really pretty webcomic. But anyway, it's getting a show on Netflix, but we don't know when. But yeah, Nameless Inversion's always been a decent spell. But, you know, they reprinted Nameless Inversion into a format that includes nowhere to run. So we're not playing it. You just play the copies you get in limited, and you do. You absolutely. You play them in limited. Oh, that's what it is. Why am I being flashbanged with Lore Olympus here? Yes, sorry, King Bob the First. The one person that knows what it is like, stop it. Yeah, I don't blame you. Let's move on to Pestered Wellguard here. 4 mana, 3 and a blue ski for a 3/2 Merfolk Soldier. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you get a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying. That's what I'm talking about. This doesn't have to be attacking or anything. It just becomes tapped and I get a guy. Let's go. There's so much Convoke in this set. They wisely left vehicles and such out of the set to the large. Well, I think entirely. So that these don't work as well, but they do work with Convoke. Cool thing about this is once you've convoked a spell with it, it helps you convoke the next spell because it gave you a guy to convoke with, right? And you can use those guys to convoke, and it makes more guys. You make those guys convoke. Good work. Good work. Also like that for Merfolk and Fairies are kind of working together on this one. So it goes in your Merfolk deck, goes in your Fairy deck. You can kind of do both if you didn't get enough of either one in your pre-release pack to do both, just slam them together, make them kiss, even though obviously if you read the flavor text, she hates this fairy. She can't stand this thing. Which I think is silly. I think they should work together more. But one way or the other, I think this is decent and limited. I really do. Really low power toughness for what you're paying for it. But it should pay you off with way more power toughness before it's all said and done. So I'd look out for it, man. I like this a good bit. Next is Pitiless Fists, 4 mana, 3 and a green for an R that enchants a creature. When it enters, enchanted creature fights up to one target creature an opponent controls. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, which should really help it in the fight, right? Cool art by A.M. Sartor here. I don't know. I might play this just because it's a removal spell. You tend to look at auras like, I don't know, man, especially in limited where like everyone's always got a removal spell cocked and loaded. Oh, me, I drafted 28 removal spells, so you better get ready. So I know that it's a little, sometimes you're wary of auras. I get that. But this one's good. You stick it, it kills something, and it makes your creature like way bigger. So I don't know. I might try a copy. Next is Prisma Basher. He looks cool. 6 mana, 4 and double green for a 6/6 elemental with trample. 6 mana, 6/6 trample. Always find a way to slip Colossal Dreadmaw into the set, don't they? They find a way. This has Vivid. When it enters, up to X target creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, X being the number of colors among permanents you control. So this is also the overrun effect in the uncommon slot. That's cute. Sometimes they'll do this, by the way. They'll take two like things that they often include in limited environments, in this case an overrun and a Colossal Dreadmaw. And they'll make them kiss, right? They'll just make them like the same card. Because, we need to make both these cards anyway, right? So let's just make them one card. And this time, the peanut butter that got mixed with the chocolate turned out to be Colossal Dreadmaw and Overrun, which I think is actually kind of a pretty sexy combination. This is a little mini Crater Hoof Behemoth in your limited deck, so I think you do it. I think you probably play it a good bit. Next is Pukazai. I kind of like this, actually. 2 mana for an artifact. When it enters, draw a card. Choose a color. Artifact becomes the chosen color. You can pay 3, tap it, draw a card. Activate only if there are 5 colors among permanents you control. So if there is such thing as a budget 5-color commander deck, I guess you play this. Right. It's kind of like a Better Prophetic Prism, but, nothing special about that now. We see a lot of Better Prophetic Prisms. So, but, I still think maybe draw a card every now and again is fine. 3 mana is a lot. That's probably what's keeping me off this card and saying it's actually good. It's the 3 mana is a lot. But, okay. Best I can say about this card is, all right, sure. It replaces itself. Reaping Willow has really cool art, dude. Igor cooking on every single burner on the stove on this one, baby. Reaping Willow is 4 mana, 1 and 3 Orzhov hybrids for a 3/6 Treefolk Cleric with lifelink. Enters with 2 -1/-1 counters, making it a 1/4 when it enters. You can pay 1 in an Orzhov hybrid and remove 2 counters from the creature. How convenient. To return a creature card, mana value 3 or less from your yard to the battlefield at sorcery speed. We just saw the white creature for 3 mana that can sometimes reanimate a creature when it attacks. It's a little bit like that, except you don't have to attack with it. You just get to sit there and block with it and then eventually return something. For just a couple of mana, pretty good. You get mana value too, if you do it right, which I like. Once you get the counters off of it, it's actually, it blocks everything and life links it. So nothing's getting past you on the ground and you're gaining life. I think it's a more than solid dude. And yeah, you can blight it and do it again. Or you can put +1/+1 counters on your lifelink guy and then remove those later too. So yeah, I think this is wonderful. It doesn't signal anything. I don't think it's a signpost for any specific deck that I can think of necessarily. Maybe the Blight deck, right? Because that deck wants to blight its own creatures and blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, I think this is just solid. If I was playing white-red, I might include this card in my deck. Right? And if I'm playing black-green, it's probably in my deck. Seriously. Card's good. But next is Wretched Wretch. This is neat. It does like a version of Persist. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 4/2 goblin that looks a lot like a cat, but apparently it's a goblin. When this creature dies, if it had a -1/-1 counter on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and it loses all abilities. What? Basically, their version of putting Persist like into the set as a little cameo, which I think is kind of cute. But altogether, it's just not. It's whatever. It's a 3 mana 4/2. But I think it's probably better, actually, than it appears, If you get the counter on it, it wants to be blighted. If it gets the counter on it, it's a 3/1. You can trade it in combat. It comes back as a 4/2. Let's go. I don't know. It's fine. The next is Squawk Roaster. This is a cute card. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a star 4 elemental with double strike and vivid. Its power is equal to the number of colors among permanents you control. So all we got to do is get purple. Purple's got to be a color. And let me make a double strike crawl worm out of this chicken. But this is quite the roasted chicken. I'll say the Cerberus chicken. It's got 3 heads. I just noticed it has 3 heads. It's a Cerberus. This also has a great name. Just whoever designed this has Gavin written all over it, by the way. But whoever designed this, kudos. I'd play it in limited if I did have a number of, if I could vivid well, I would play it in limited. But that's all I can really say about it. If you get this thing up to 4 power, it's crazy. If it's 1 power, I guess it'll always be 1 power. How good is a 1 power double striker for 4 mana? We'll find out. I think there could be more to this than meets the eye. It could be better than it looks, but double strike is just a busted ability. It just always is. Next is Tanafel Rhyme Speaker. I'm a rhyme speaker. Gonna take my job from me, man. It's 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 elemental wizard. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, draw a card. Let's go. Let's get it, baby. This, I think, is one of the better cards of the day for sure, dude. It's not up the beanstalk. It isn't, okay? It costs double what up the beanstalk costs. It's technically more removable than up the beanstalk. But if you think about it, very similar to up the beanstalk. What beans should have costed exactly. So I don't think this pops off in standard. But it is worth noting that if you cast a second copy of it while it's out, you draw a card because it procs itself. I've noticed that a lot of these elementals that care about 4 or greater things cost 4 or greater. That's how you design cards. Good job. So, and once you do have multiple copies and you cast a 4, draw 2, dude, yeah. I'm playing this in limited. I am. There's a fun deck building quest in like pre-release and draft here where you have to include enough 2 and 3 drops in your deck for your deck to function as a Magic deck. You have to curve out. But you also have to have a number of 4 and 5 drops to get these cards to work, more than usual. That's a fun deck building riddle right there. Although I will say, I don't want to get you in trouble, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. But I will say that pre-release, a slower, less organized kind of format where people have less control over what cards they ultimately even get to play, what themes they get to run with. Formats like that are perfect for overrunning 4 to 6 drops. I can't tell you the last time that I played less than 2 6-drops in my pre-release deck. It's been a while, man. I love 6-drops in my pre-release deck. I constantly play 6 4-drops in my pre-release decks. Because it turns out that 4 mana spells in limited are generally better than 2 and 3 mana spells. 5 mana spells are generally better than 3 mana spells. So your opponent will curve out on you and stuff. But there's so many situations in limited where, okay, you dropped a 2-drop. You dropped a 3-drop. I dropped a 5-drop. Everything you've done is entirely invalidated. That happens in limited all the time. So I really think that there's a sweet spot in limited drops, and it starts at 4. It really does. So again, don't overload your deck with way too many 4s and 5s, but if there's a place you can get away with doing that, it's pre-release. It really is. But yeah, Beanstalk doesn't block X3s or 3Xs. Yeah, it's true. That's true. Thought Weft Charge is up next. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. If a creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. Hey! So, a giant growth, but it costs an extra mana to draw the card. That's fine. You'll play it in limited. It's a great combat trick there if you're attacking, right? It looks like the Kithkin decks and other green decks and stuff want to mostly be aggressive. So, it doesn't work as well on defense, but notably can still work on defense. So, altogether just solid. More than solid little limited card. You'll play it. Thoughtweft Imbuer is up next. 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 0/5 Kithkin Advisor. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X until end of turn. X being the number of Kithkin that you control. I don't like it. This is one of the only cards tonight I'm just straight up say like, it's a 4 mana 0/5, man. Like, it's not even a 1/5. It's not even a 1/5. So a 4 mana 0/5. My guy has to now attack alone. There's nothing else in the set that cares about Exalted that I can remember. So my guy has to attack alone, right? And now he gets like what, +4/+4? You know, maybe if he has trample, you know, I could see it. But for 4 mana, I don't know. Yeah, it's a reference to Thoughtweft. It's a reference to Thoughtweft, the old Kithkin ability. But there's a reason Thoughtweft isn't in this set at all, you know. Or Thoughtweft Trio, you know, like it's all the Thoughtweft stuff is just completely gone. We haven't even seen the word Thoughtweft. But the Kithkin's abilities, I believe, had to do with like a bunch of other Kithkins being into play and blah, blah, blah. And we haven't really seen like Kithkin mechanics that I can remember in this set. And this is kind of a reference to what Kithkin used to do, right? And like, you know, it just gives it +X, no sort of evasion of any kind, no trample, no flying, no blah. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just like harshly judging this card, but I don't feel it, man. I don't feel it. I don't. Maybe, again, the trick to this is having a single trampling creature, you know, or a flying creature. You'd be okay. But I'm not a fan. Next, and beginning the quote-unquote best uncommons of the day, or at least the ones that I think are neat or worth paying attention to, is Prismatic Undercurrents, which is kind of an honorable mention for them. 4 mana, 3 and a white for an enchantment with Vivid. When it enters, search your library for up to X basic lands, X being the number of colors among permanents you control. Reveal those cards, put them into your hand, then shuffle up. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. So the lands don't go into play like an explosive vegetation effect would usually do. But you do get to play an additional land like immediately, right? Maybe I just love the Steve Ellis art on this. Maybe that's what's doing it for me the most. But as far as 4 drops go, I'm not excited by creatures that want me to have 5 other creatures out, and they start as 0 power creatures, and they cost too much mana in the first place, and they make me attack alone. Like it's like those aren't the 4 drops I want. This is the 4 drop I want. I don't think it's standard playable, but I don't know. Maybe I feel like if you're budgeting in Commander a little bit, a lot of the effects that allow you to play extra lands on your turn can get a little expensive price-wise. This probably won't, right? So there's that. In certain decks, this also allows you to just go get 5 lands and put them in your hand, which is good for lots of reasons, right? Things that count hand size, things that want you to discard cards. You just got a bunch of fodder. Maybe you want to hit your land drops. Wild idea. But I think just putting a bunch of lands in your hand is kind of good in and of itself. But playing an additional land every turn is halfway decent. I'm glad this card's uncommon. I don't think it needed to be rare, but you really don't see this last line of text on uncommons very much, like at all. So, yeah, probably 0 standard playability whatsoever, I would imagine. But I do think it's a neatly designed card that could see some Commander play. And again, something like this technically draws 5 cards. And I don't think just it drawing 5 lands is good enough, but there may be a deck in Standard here or there that wants to do that, right? So we'll see. We'll see. I think it's a little overcosted for Standard, but we'll figure it out. Next is Boggart Cursecrafter. You guys knew I'd love this card. This is kind of another honorable mention for the best uncommons. A red and a black for a 2/3 Goblin Warlock with Death Touch. Whenever another Goblin you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. We're in it, son. It's like, finally. Like Goblins, I feel like for 20 years now, since the original Lorwyn sets, you know, like since like Murderous Redcap, like since Goblin Bombardment. So we're talking like almost 30 years now. Goblins has been dancing around being an Aristocrats deck, right? Like almost, you know, you want to sack Goblins for some value here and there, you know, but we just can't quite like get, am I just supposed to play Blood Artist in my Goblins deck? That was the answer up until now. This little lady, this beautiful vision right here. This is my kind of girl, dude. I know it's a whatever, but still my kind of girl, like beard or not. A 2/3 Death Touch for 2 mana, I should say, is just good. That's your fine rate, right? We can all get behind a 2-mana 2/3 Death Touch. Wow. But like, as far as Blood Artists go, like the original Blood Artist is literally a 0/1. Like, it's the most fragile creature in the world. This, on the other hand, actually has a real stat line and a real keyword. That's awesome. So love it. Love it, love it. You guys knew I would love it. I bet when you saw this card today, you were like, man, Dev's feeling good. So I just, yeah, I am. We got to build goblins now. We got to build Rakdos Aristocrats goblins. We have to. So this card exists not just in standard, but forever in Commander. And that's whoo, that's pretty good, dude. I'm building Rakdos goblins tomorrow. Just proxying this guy up. Love him. We'll always love him. Whitney Houston, Dolly Parton. I will always love you. Let's move on to Mud Button Curse Tosser. So first of all, let's get over that the guy's name is Mudbutt. Can we just be adults for a second? Can for one moment we understand that for the rest of our lives, that for the entire tenure this card is available in Standard, and I am certainly playing it on Arena, all right? You'll see me resolve this card on Arena probably 5 dozen times or more in the next 3 years. And every single time I will call it Mudbutt. Every time we see this card, I'm like, oh, we got a Mudbutt in our opener. Look at that. Opening on Mud. Turn 1 Mudbutt. All right. Let's just be adults. Yeah, Mudbutt Tosser. They tried something with this name. They absolutely did. But I haven't read you the card yet. The card is phenomenal. This is a single black mana for a 2/1 Goblin Warlock. As an additional cost to cast this spell, behold a goblin or pay 2. This creature cannot block. When this creature dies, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less. Friends, you see how bald I am? You see how bald I am? You see the level to which I am bald? You see? You see that? That's how much I like this card. I like this card as much as I am bald. Why do you think I've been Tim pulling it with the beanies lately? Look like my Uncle Tim. This thing is wild. Wild. It cannot block, which I don't love, but that would be cheating. If you just block with it, that's cheating, but instead you're obviously supposed to sacrifice this card. And lucky for you, that's what I like. So, yeah. I think this is the 1-drop. I think it's the 1-drop, guys. Bring up my De Niro. Pretty sure it's the 1-drop. I don't know, dog. We got some good 1-drops for Aristocrats in Standard, obviously, And I don't think we're going to stop playing like Infestation Sage for the Sephiroth lines or whatever. But the one thing about this in like normal Aristocrats decks is that obviously it's not as playable. You got to have goblins. But if we have enough goblins that are good in Aristocrats, you can probably do some crossovering. You can probably do some Timmy Hardaway killer crossovers with this. Play Vengeful Blood Witch and a bunch of goblins. That's fine. Play Sephiroth and a bunch of goblins. That's fine. That somehow seems like on theme, But this, in that Aristocrats Goblins deck, is obviously going to be like the 1-drop, baby. Woo! Like, imagine Village Rites, kill your guy, draw 2. My God. Imagine Eaten Alive, kill whatever guy I want to, and kill that guy. Like, oh my God. This little lady, look. LSO Core rotated. All right? She rotated. That sucks. All right? She's gone. She's gone. She's out of my life, except for Commander. I get to see her every now and again. I also have an actual wife in real life, right? I am looking for a new Standard wife, and I just said it's this thing. But I'm pretty sure that now I'm a polygamist because what, you want me to not marry this guy too? What, you want me to not marry this? Look, she's beautiful. So, yeah, look at her carrying around like a frog on a string. Look at that. She got a frog on a string. Do you not want to know this person? What do you? Come on. This is an excellent card. We're an hour and a half in somehow. So I really need to get to the rares because we somehow haven't yet. But oh my God. This is incredible. It's incredible. I really think this is insane for Aristocrat decks. Not every deck is going to have a target for it. I get that, but enough decks will that I think this is like a problem. I really think it's potentially a problem card. I love it. I've made that obvious. I think this is wild. Yeah, wood. Yeah, same. Smash or pass? Obvious. Right, let's move on to Unbury. If you can't tell, I really like black cards. I like cards we have to tap swamps to play them. This is 2 mana, 1 in a black for an instant. Choose 1. Return target creature card from your yard to your hand. Or return 2 target creature cards that share a creature type from your yard to your hand. So you're telling me that this is draw 2 cards for 2 mana at instant speed. Is that what you're telling? You're telling me that, son? Is that what you're telling? What are you doing? Even if, I will actually say that even if this only returns 1 creature, it's still like 2 mana at instant speed, like 2 mana EOT to get back a creature. And like, note that there are flash fairies in this set. So like you could cast this on your opponent's turn, get a flash fairy out of your yard and immediately flash it in and feel like the boss, like feel like Bruce Springsteen when you do that. So gross. Yeah. Not draw 2. Get your best 2 in the graveyard. That is above rate. Yeah, exactly. When I say draw 2 on effects like this, I'm using it as shorthand. But yeah, this is, in some cases, it's worse than a draw 2. I'm going to go through all the rigmarole. This is why I use shorthand, right? Because it could be worse than a draw 2. Drawing 2 cards off the top of your library. Well, you always got 2 cards on top of your library until you're about to, unless you're about to die from mill or whatever, milling yourself out. There's always 2 cards on top of your library, and it could be anything, you know what I mean? But there's not always 2 guys in your yard, right? Is the going theory. Especially early in the game, you probably won't have 2 guys. But it is effectively 2 mana for card advantage at instant speed. And that's crazy. I don't know if it's playable in standard, but it's close. It is really, really close if it's not. So just keep your eye on this, man. Cool Kev Fang art here. Kev Fong, I believe, is how you're supposed to pronounce that. But really cool art here. Altogether, the function, though. If this were 3 mana, I would look at it like it's a normal card. Because usually cards like this would cost 3. This costing 2 is kind of a big deal at instant speed. Boulder Dash, though, I think it's my next to last uncommon of the day. I think this card is wild. 2 mana, 1 and a red for a sorcery that deals 2 damage to any target and 1 damage to any other target. Obviously, it's a sorcery. It's a sorcery. Yeah, great name. Yeah, it is. It certainly is. You return 2 mud butts with that last card. Yeah. But Boulder Dash, you know what this does? It kills Badger Mole Cub and the land that it earthbent. That's kind of good, right? You know, this kills Deep Cavern Bat and a 2 toughness creature. That's okay. This will kill 2 creatures against mono red every time. You know, this kills Needlehead and Burnout, right? I guess we'll say, right? So I think against most decks that play creatures, this usually kills 2 guys, especially if you're on the draw. You know, if you're on the play, this card isn't great on turn 2. Actually, though, if you're on the draw and they've had their second turn already, yeah, I think it's entirely possible you scoop 2 things with this. So, yeah, just pay attention to the fact that it exists, you know? I wouldn't say it's the best thing in the world, or even that it's super standard playable, but it's almost there. You know, it's like Arc Lightning. It's kind of a 2 mana Arc Lightning at sorcery speed. That's fine. A fine card. And yeah, you can go face. Yeah, you can just go 2 to your face, 1 to mine. Sure. I guess if there's no other targets, that is a thing you have to do. But, you know, achievement unlocked. Win the game by doing that. Be cute. Noggle Robber, though, is my very last uncommon of the day. This is some sort of, I mean, he's actually got like a little cat burglar outfit. Like he's got a little ski mask. Wild. But I do believe this card is very good. This is 3 mana, 1 and then 2 Gruul hybrids for a 3/3 Noggle Rogue. When it enters or dies, create a treasure token. Now, chat, before we move to the rares, let me know. Am I crazy? This was my favorite uncommon of the day. In some ways, I think this is the best, most playable standard common of the day. Tell me now. Am I dumb? I should just do good or bad. Is this card good or bad? Is this card on your screen the Noggle Rogue, known as Noggle Robber, a good quote good, unquote, magical cardboard piece of painted paper. That's what I'm asking you right now. Great Noggle, 10 of 10 and limited. 2 treasures, great. Yeah. Courage says flicker. Yeah. Palrog says yes. There was a card like this in Streets, but it did it on ETB. Yeah, there's been a number of 3 mana, make a treasure when it comes to Blight. You're probably thinking of, oh my God, I just looked at it yesterday. It's a cat. It's a cat. It costs 2 and a green. What is it called? What is the card called? Gem Thief. Oh, chat. Good job. Yes, it's kind of Gem Thief. Gem Thief's pretty good. You know, it's not bad. A 3/3 for 1 net mana is good. Yes, yeah. Pinch hit hero. That's how I'm looking at it. See, that Jewel Thief. Yeah, it is Jewel Thief. It's absolutely Jewel Thief. Yeah, the card is ramp. This is a body that ramps immediately. And when it dies, it's also Piggy Bank. You know what I mean? This card is Jewel Thief and Piggy Bank. And I think that's very good. I do. I think the ETB trigger is good. And then if it like trades in combat, you get a treasure too. It's crazy. Dad. Father. That's crazy. I think this is a fantastic Magic card. I really do. Mark my words. It may show up eventually. We'll see. Play it on 2. You have a good, but yeah, you Lana War Elves on 1, this on 2. Good Lord. It's fantastic. I think there's a lot to this. I like this card a lot. Like it a lot. I like that they brought back Noggles, you know, which is not a word I love. I don't like, it's not like a fun word to say. Oh, it's so fun. I'm actually not a huge fan of that word, but I think that the concept is fun. It's like some sort of serpent donkey or something like that. It's some kind of river donkey of some kind. I think that's cute too. But let's move on to the rares. Finally, an hour and a half in or something like that. It's crazy. We got to do it eventually. So let's hit it, baby. We got Brigid. Brigid? Is it Brigid? It's probably Brigid. Clacklin's Heart here. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 3/2 legendary Kithkin warrior. When it enters or transforms into Brigid Clacklin's Heart. Clacklin's Heart. I can't do it. Clachin? I don't know. When it turns into this Brigid, you get a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. At the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay a green. If you do, transform Brigid into Brigid. Dawn's Mind. This is a 3/2 legendary Kithkin soldier. You can tap it and add X green or white, X being the number of other creatures you control. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay white. If you do, transform B. Clackin. It is Clackin. Okay. What's Clackin? All right. So I'm not impressed by this. Just like the other cards we've looked at today, the other rarities, only like the last 3 to 5 rares are in order, right? I put Z's in front of their file names to make sure they're at the end. It's like ZZZ, this card. I am pretty low tech. The other ones are not necessarily in any order, but I will say that this is the first rare, and it's one of the ones that I'm not actually that impressed by. I guess it's good that it gives you a body when it comes into play. I'll take that. But this side, I don't think is very good in Standard. I just kind of don't. Even if you only have one other Kithkin when it comes into play, you know, it kind of pays for its own transformation, which I guess is fine. But it doesn't actually ramp you that much. But the moment it starts tapping for 2 or 3, I think it's good. I just don't think that's going to happen as often as you want it to. And just like the other 3 drops we've talked about in this video, I don't love when a 3-drop dies to Burst Lightning or something, you know. But at least it leaves behind a 1/1. I'm probably being a little too hard on Brigid, but I'm just not seeing the kind of card that ends up seeing much Standard play. But I could be wrong. This could tap for 5 mana and be crazy, but I don't think so. I think maybe you Commander it, and you build a deck around it in Commander, and then you play 2 Commander games with it. In the second game, you tap it for 15 mana, and then you never play the deck again. That's what this looks like to me. So, it's moving. Let's move on to the last couple of champions in the cycle. This is Champion of the Path. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 7/3 elemental sorcerer. As an additional cost to cast it, behold an elemental and exile it. Whenever another elemental you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. It's a good line of text. And when this guy leaves the battlefield, you get the exiled card back in your hand. So is very tempting. Very tempting, especially considering you can still evoke elementals into play, and this will see them come into play, deal a bunch of damage, right? So that's cute. It's cute stuff. But altogether, just like the other champions, I have to docket some points. You know, you can behold a guy that's in your hand. You can behold a guy that's on the table. There's a couple of ways to behold, but I actually don't think that it is an extremely uncommon situation to draw this guy the turn after a Wrath, or to draw this guy a game where you've been counterspelled and what creatures you have resolved have been removed. And now, you know, you're down to like maybe a removal spell or two and a land in your hand and this guy. So you can't behold a guy in your hand. Can't behold a guy on the table. It's just a dead card. And I don't love the idea of that situation. I think it's much more common than you might think, you know? So I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm saying you don't have a guy in your hand or on the table. Those guys, you can be holding a guy. Yeah, I know. You can be holding a guy. I also think you're joking, which is funny. You can be holding a guy. Do you see? Do you see what you did there? That's actually very clever, as a matter of fact. But anyway, I do think it's tempting. I like Pandemonium and stuff like that, Warstorm Surge, as much as the next guy. But I just don't know if I can truly love any of these champions. I really don't. But Champions of the Shoal is up next for mana, 3 and a blue, and I believe it's the last champion. The other thing that makes me mad about these, by the way, is the Elves one is Champions. This one, the blue one, is Champions. The other ones are Champion. Bugs the crap out of me. Shouldn't, but not like standardizing the naming convention on these cards, just like tweaks at me. And I don't know, I should probably just take my blood pressure pills. But anyway, this is 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 4/6 Merfolk Soldier. As an additional cost to cast it, behold a Merfolk, exile it. When this thing leaves the battlefield, you get the thing back. Whenever this creature enters or becomes tapped, tap up to one target creature and put a stun counter on it. So this, I think, is maybe like potentially the best of the champions. Like, you know, that last one was just Warstorm Surge. The green one is just Beast Whisperer, right? Like, some of these aren't that impressive. The white one is just like Flash, give all the Kithkin +1/+1. Like, come on, man. This is like opposition. You know what I mean? And that's a strong magic card, dude. So I like this. You can crew vehicles or just spacecraft or planets or whatever you want to do. You can obviously Convoke, which is what Limited wants you to do with the card. But there's so many ways to tap creatures down. And now I get to stun counters too? It's wild. It's wild. Yeah, welcome back, Frost Titan. Honestly, that might not be hyperbole. That seriously might not be hyperbole. Like, this is okay. If I wanted to like any of these, it'd be this one. It'd be this one. For sure. So maybe championing is like easier than I think in standard. We'll see. And if we see, it'll be because of this guy. This guy's crazy. Once this guy's on the table, this guy's nuts and butts and bananas and coconuts. I like this guy. I'll say too expensive for Merfolk. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Like, if you play it on turn 4 and you can get some sort of benefit from it, because you will. This has an ETB trigger. So, like, you'll tap a creature down that can't attack you. You can swing through it this turn, the turn it comes out. But if, say, you also have a vehicle or like some other way of tapping it, the turn it comes into play. Because remember, it can do that. It can't tap to attack or something or use an activated ability, but it can tap to crew a vehicle. So, like, if you play this, get its ETB trigger, and then tap it to crew a vehicle immediately, gonzo. That seems really good to me. Seriously. So, I don't know, man. Maybe. But next is Dream Harvest. This is 7 mana, 5 and then 2 Dimir hybrids for a sorcery. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they have exiled cards total mana value 5 or greater this way. Until end of turn, you may cast cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So you'll always lose mana value on this unless they immediately hit a 9-drop. Or, you know what I mean? Like, the first thing they hit is a 9-drop or 7-drop. It's not going to happen too often. This is a commander card, obviously. It probably should have been the commander product. More even so than a lot of the other commander-ish cards in the set. This says each opponent. So I imagine against on a lot of commander tables, you just get to cast like 7 free spells or something, like on average, right? Like 5 or 6 free spells at the least. And that's probably good. I don't know if it's worth 7 mana, but it's good. It's quite good. You will get mana value. If you play it 1v1, though, you'll literally almost never get mana value off of this. That's not good. So play it in Commander, I guess. They should do that. Yeah, time for the C word. Yeah, sorry, cover your children's ears. This is a commander card right here. Next is Inblaze Epiphany. This is X and a red for an instant. Inblaze Epiphany deals X damage to a creature. When that creature dies this turn, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to its power. Then choose a card exiled this way. Till the end of your next turn, you may play that card. This is almost good. This is almost good. This is an instant. Right? So, how you feeling? How you feeling, Chatsky? How you feeling, Fatsky? Chatsky, you doing okay? It's okay. Hear me out. Jumbo Cactar. That's cute. That's kind of cute, actually. That's actually very cute. You deck yourself with impulse draws, but it's cute. You're firebending? Yeah. Ooh, that's noodle using. Somebody's using their whole pasta maker over there. That's yeah, firebending, great. Yeah, the fact this is an instant, I think, makes me intrigued. You know, if it were a sorcery like it would normally be, I would just be like, yeah, card's bad. What's the next card? Card sucks. put on my northeastern accent. What's this crappy card? It sucks. Card sucks. Get out of here. Card's wicked bad. This, on the other hand, instant speed. Okay. You know, if I kill a Deep Cavern Bat, let's say I mid-game kill a Deep Cavern Bat, pouring all of my mana into this EOT, and I deal 4. I deal 4 to a DCB. You know, that's 3 cards, dog. Even if I only deal 3 damage to the DCB, that's 2. I get 2 cards. Not every removal spell gives you a form of card advantage, and this does. And yeah, it's the next turn. Until the end of your next turn. So like if you do cast it on your turn through firebending, you get a whole like turn cycle and a half to play the card. That's all right, dog. Till the end of your next turn. Yeah, it's not like the beginning of your next end step. It's until the end of your next turn. Wild. So, yeah, you draw X damage. Oh, yeah. Yep. Thank you. This is why I have you. You draw the cards equal to its power. I was thinking XX damage for some reason. I think there might be an excess damage card at some point today. Maybe I'm just crazy. But yeah, you draw cards equal to its power. Sorry. So if you did kill a DCB, you'd look at 1 card. Still pretty good. You at that point, you paid 2 mana to kill a Deep Cavern Bat and kind of draw a card. Okay, you know. Killing like X3s, I think is okay. Right? 4 mana, kill an X3, draw some cards, whatever. Pretty good. But even just killing like 2/2s. You kill a 2/2 with this for 3 mana, you look at 2. That seems excellent to me, dude. That seem all right. You know? That seem okay. Yeah, you choose a card. I know you don't get to draw all those cards and play them. You choose a card that way. Yeah, sorry if I wasn't like super clear on that. I keep saying like draw 3, draw 4. You kind of do, but really only get to play one of them. I still think that's good. I still think that's pretty good because you're just going to play the best one anyway. You know, you've only got 1 turn cycle to play the card. You're probably just going to spend what mana you have left on the good one. So there is that. But altogether, I kind of like it. There are some restrictions, but altogether, I do kind of like it. Next is Gloom Ripper. 5 mana, 3 and double black for a 4/4 elf assassin. When it enters, target creature you control gets +X/+0 till end of turn. And up to 1 target creature an opponent controls gets -0/-X until end of turn. X being the number of elves you control and the number of elf cards in your graveyard. So for 5 mana, this kind of seems like the kind of rare that they didn't want to be uncommon for limited. Right? So it'd be really, really good there. But it might be decent in like some elves decks in Commander, right? I could see that, but altogether, I'm not too impressed by this one either. I like the art. Isabella Mazzanti did great. But as much as I love a dude that comes down and kills something, I'm not as impressed when they're 5 mana. You know, whatever. But next is Raiding Schemes. This is 5 mana, 3, a red and a green for an enchantment. Each non-creature spell you cast has Conspire. So is this just Wart the Raid Mother on an enchantment? I believe Wart, well, am I wrong? I was going to say Wart costs 6, but Wart may have cost 5. But yeah, this is basically Wart the Raid Mother's original ability just on an enchantment. And that's sick. That's pretty cool. In case you don't know what Conspire is, because they didn't really put it back in the set. As you cast a non-creature spell, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control that share a color with the spell you're casting. When you do, copy the spell, and you can choose new targets for the copy. Copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. So really, really, really cool thing here, even though, you know, you're not going to be copying any creatures. But you can obviously copy artifacts, enchantments, and stuff with this. Just really cool. Yeah, wowee. Yep, that's really, really neat. That's a neat card right there. I think it costs too much for standard, right? But it is worth noting that you can play this on turn 5 and you didn't skip your turn. If you have 2 creatures in play, you can, well, no, you can't. No, you can't. For a second, I thought you could cast something for free. But you can't. So excuse me. This is a 5-mana do nothing. It's bad. I want to look for the positive here, but I'll just say commander. These like 5-mana do something splashy enchantments never work in standard. What was the last one we got? Like Spider-Verse? What'd that do? Yeah, exactly. Rhyme Fire Torque is up next. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an artifact. When it enters, choose a creature type. Whenever a permanent you control of the chosen type enters, put a charge counter on this artifact. Tap and remove 3 charge counters from Rhyme Fire Torque, and when you next cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copy. So yet another copying thing. We want to copy stuff. So cool that it's enters and not only when you cast, because this way tokens will also put charge counters on this. And I think it's kind of a big deal, especially in a lot of different, creature types like elves or merfolk. You're getting a lot of tokens, right? It's good that they put counters on this. But how many instants and sorcery spells am I casting in my creature-based like kindred deck? You know what I mean? Maybe I'm casting like a big combat trick or like give the whole team a giant anthem, and I'd like to copy that. I don't know. Either way, this is one of those wonky cards that like I don't think is standard playable, but like something about it. But I don't think it's quite on the level. I don't. Proliferate? Maybe. Maybe if there was a spell that made 3 creatures. There are a few. There is a goblin that makes 3 creatures in this set. Comes into play, you can Blight 2. If you do Blight 2, you get 2 1/1s. That's 4 mana. So that's one thing. That is one thing. But altogether, I think it's too much work, for what you're really going to end up getting. It's not fast enough, right? But maybe. This is one of those cards like I have to reevaluate later. Like, how good is this really? Probably bad. Because, it's going to be turns where like you play this. This is the bad thing about this card. There's going to be turns where you play this, and then you literally don't play a creature of the chosen type for like 2 turns in a row. So it does nothing. It didn't do anything when it came into play either. You're sitting there waiting for it to do something, and it never does. It's probably pretty bad. Next is Soul Immolation. So this is 5 mana, 3 double red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, Blight X. X cannot be greater than the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Soul Immolation deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Art by, once again, the great Drew Tucker. So this reminds me of the opposite of Nibelheim Aflame. Right? It's like Nibelheim Aflame lets you keep like one dude and like deal damage equal to that guy's power or toughness or whatever. This makes you kill one dude effectively, and then everything else dies. Really interesting here. Like you get to keep all your other creatures, right? This is a one-sided wrath. So long as you sacrifice a creature. That's basically what it says. Sacrifice a creature, destroy all creatures opponent controls so long as you sacrificed a large enough creature. Pretty good. You don't even have to like let's say you have a 6/6 and all they have is 3 3s. Well, just Blight 3. You kill their entire team and you keep a 3/3 at that point. This is neat. This is actually walls of bossing say. Yeah, it's cute. Yeah, that's true. The Blight does not have to target your largest man. That is true. Like you can put, you have an X3, right? You could always just -3/-3, the Blight 3 or whatever, and then kill all their guys. And keep your huge man. But it really wouldn't matter. You just wouldn't Blight your huge man. But this is completely one-sided. Each creature they control. That's pretty good. That's pretty all right, man. I do. I will say in like standard, I don't know how many times you're going to have like, 3 creatures out. That's probably what you want to be. You have 3 creatures out. I'll Blight one of them and kill it. Take out all your guys, attack with my remaining 2 dudes. I don't know how often that actually happens. I really don't. But I do think this is one to look out for. And as far as Commander goes, yeah. Yeah. This probably goes directly into, yeah, absolutely, right? This goes directly into the precon, the Commander precon. The one that cares about -1/-1 counters. Yeah, do that. Next is Spry and Mighty here. 5 mana, 4 and a green for a sorcery. Choose 2 dudes you control. You draw X cards. And the chosen creatures get +X/+X and gain trample until end of turn. X is the difference between the chosen creature's powers. So if I take, say, a Llanowar Elves and an Overlord of the Hauntwoods, then I draw 5 and they both get +5/+5. Okay. Probably not going to happen super often. Say that much. I will say that much. I don't think this is great. I don't. Like, maybe, again, you could make a commander case for this. I don't think this is a playable standard card in any universe. Basically ever. I mean, you could make a case that this just alphas your opponent while also drawing you 4 or 5 cards in case it doesn't alpha the opponent that turn. But yeah, no. No, I wouldn't say it's not as stinky as I'm fixing my face for. I don't think it's that bad, but I'm not super impressed. I think it's just really overcosted. And you have dreams, right? You have dreams as a Magic player. They're just going to draw me 4 cards, dude. I'm going to swing for 12. No, you're not. No, stop it. Don't do it to yourself. Yeah, better design than card. Exactly. But I could see doing something with it in Commander. Even there, it's like, it is easier. After lands, what do you have, 65 slots or so left in your Commander deck? 60 to 65 slots after you add lands. It's not as many slots as you think. Do you have a slot for this card? I don't know. Yeah, most decks have big creatures or small creatures, not many of both. True. Like green, I'll keep using like the Llanowar Elves or Bird or Paradise example. So I have a Llanowar Elves and a Vault-Born Tyrant. It's like, you could probably do something with that combo. But Tristan's command is up next. I believe it's the last of the commands. Might be wrong. 6 mana, 4 black-green for a Kindred Elf sorcery. You choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of an elf you control. Or return 1 or 2 target permanent cards from your yard to your hand. Or destroy target creature or enchantment. Or creatures target player controls get +3/+3 till end of turn. Untap them. This card costs 6 mana. This card costs 6 mana. It costs 6. It's ridiculous, dude. Maybe a big commander that makes tokens for the last card. Yeah. Like a 7/7 that makes tokens. That'd be great. Noodles. Don't just eat them. You got to use them sometimes too. But yeah, a copy of an elf I control for 6 mana. Most of my elves cost 2. What am I doing? I will say that there are some cool modes on this, but nothing. 6, dude. Like nothing worth 6, even for 2 of them. It gives you card advantage and can technically 3 for 1, right? Like get 2 things back and kill something. Seems fine, but it costs 6, dude. It costs 6. Come on, man. It costs 6 mana. Stop it. Next is Shadow Urchin. I love this art, and that makes sense because it's by Ron Spencer. Person whose name I think I may have forgotten to mention earlier when I was talking about all these old school Magic artists that are in this set. But I love Ronnie. I love Ronnie boy. 3 mana, 2 Interactos for a 3/4 oof. When it attacks, Blight 1. Whenever a creature you control with 1 or more counters on it dies, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. And so if I do Wrath my entire board when I have 6 dudes with let's call it 3 dudes with -1/-1 counters. That's 3 cards. 3 cards, Bubba. I think that's okay. Again, maybe Commander playable. I don't know about Standard on this because I'm just not sure there's a good Standard Blight deck, But I think a lot of decks in Commander want this. Anything doing +1/+1 counters as well as -1/-1 counters. Most decks playing red cap, murderous red cap combos. Like I want this for Celeste. I want this for Celeste in Commander right now. It really works with anything trying to do persist combos and stuff. Just wonderful. I think it's a wonderful card there. So fan, also the art. Look at the little guy. Look how evilly, gleefully happy he is. It's awesome. Just got here. What is Kindred Sorcery? It's just a neat way to slap creature types onto things that aren't creatures. That's it, So now cards might say, rather than if an elf creature would deal damage to you, now they'll say, if you would take damage from an elf source. And that will include things like Kindred Sorceries, Kindred Instants that happen to have the elf type. Or if a creature has protection from elves, that means that it's also protected from Kindred Sorceries that include the elf type. You see? Yeah. It's a cute way to kind of mess around, But let's move on to Scuzzback Scrounger. I believe this. I put this in one of my favorite rares of the day. I think we're in the top 5 now. Scuzzback is 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 3/2 Goblin Warrior. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may Blight 1. If you do, you get a treasure token. Look. Is this good? This might be the last time I ask chat this. So, is it good? Is it a good card right here? Would you guys say this card is... How you feel? How you feel about a 2-mana 3/2, first of all, that has a relevant creature type, Goblin, that makes a treasure, like, every turn? You know? Like, every turn. Rin Matthew, I mean, I agree, right? It'll die 9 out of 10 times. Yeah, that's true of most creatures. That's true of most 2-drop creatures. So I'm not biting on that one. That's almost bait level right there. It's a maze, so it's okay. Yeah, that's true. I love it so much. Not good enough. Sorry, gangster. Don't worry, Missy Comma Gamer. I'm not worried. Lady Tyranitar, not sure if it's good. Maddocaster says potential. Blair Mountain, neat, but no. Well, not every turn. Well, if you have a creature to blight. It doesn't say you have to blight it. You could do this every turn. You could. Limited play, want to jam it in Commander. Yeah, I think it might be Commander playable. I think a treasure every turn's pretty okay in Commander. You play it in Prosper. It's the meme, you know. Another way to turn 3 Phoenix Fleet airship trigger. Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. Fun red ramp, yeah. There are ways to make a treasure turn 2 that can't be killed. Well, I mean, in red, you know, not that many ways, right? Not in red. It's like, I think it's probably, it's like that would make Piggy Bank a better creature than this. And I think that this is better than Piggy Bank. I do. Not as good as like Magda, you know? Like, look, think about that though. They go, oh, that's actually a really good call. Magda. How much play did Magda see in Commander? People love Magda in Commander. In anything treasure oriented. And Magda did see a fair amount of, I won't say like, you know, shock the world, but Magda was a standard playable card, right? And that was like whenever she becomes tapped, you get a treasure token. This isn't even that, you know? I think it's still a 2-mana red creature, right? I think it's a good comparison. 9 Lives Familiar, that's, God, you guys. Why aren't you guys in my chair? All of you should have channels doing what I'm doing. You know more than me. 9 Lives Familiar is such a great, that's a great call. Just blight on that every turn, you know? Maybe you're trying to replay lands from Earthbending. Oh, yeah, I like that. You just blight Earthbend lands and get them back. That's cute. Got to build around it to make it good. See, and I don't think that's the whole thing with the card to me. Is I'm not sure that you do. I think it's just like play creatures and you get a treasure every turn. It's pretty cool. Yeah, Magda is a cube all-star. Yes, indeed she is. We'll get to you in a second. But Scuzzbat, you got charisma, Dev? I don't know, man. I'm just over here like, no, I think you're wrong. I don't know. It doesn't sound very charismatic to me. But yeah, I think this is kind of fine. I think it's probably altogether better than some of the other red rampers for 2 mana we've seen. We saw the 3/1, Sure Shot, something, taps for a red. We saw the 2 mana 1/3, Zodiac, whatever. It's an artifact creature. That taps for a red. I think this is better than Black Market Tycoon from New Capenna. You know how many Magic cards I know? All of them. But yeah, I think that it's pretty easy to get a treasure out of this every turn, and that's good. Also, I'm going to say this one more time. One more time. Aristocrats. All right. And now I'm done. I'm done pitching for this card. But I will say Aristocrats, you know. Dev is MTG's Dusty Rhodes. A son of a plumber. I'm a son of a plumber, baby. Let's move on to Glenalindra Guardian here. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 3/4 fairy wizard with flash and flying. Uh-oh. This creature enters with a -1/-1 counter on it. Pay 1 and a blue, remove a counter from the creature. Counter target non-creature spell its controller draws a card. Now we got one, baby. Now we got a real Magic card, everyone. It's real. This guy's... So, like, you'll agree with me that this is a good one, right? This card's good. This is a good card. I won't even wait for your chats. I am telling you unequivocally, this is a good card. This is Glenalindra Archmage reworked. You know, it's just supposed to remind you of Glenalindra Archmage. But, this has flash. If you have 5 mana when you play this, you can go ahead and use its ability. And end up with a 3/4 flyer for your 5 mana investment. Not like amazing, but A 3-mana 5/4 flyer that countered something when it came into play. My God. My God. You can protect creatures with this. Interesting that if you just play this on turn 3, like at the end of your opponent's turn, right? Well, now, the moment you untap with it and play, your opponent like can't play removal spells. Kinda, you know what I mean? If they try to play a removal spell, this thing will literally just get stronger. Like, you get to draw a card. I guess there's that. But yeah, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's as good as Archmage either. I just think it's supposed to remind you of Archmage. I believe it does cost 1 less than Archmage to get on the table though, and that's wild. Yeah, Flash makes it so annoying. Yeah, I think this is a playable standard card. I think that of all the cards we have looked at so far in the entirety of this 2-hour sit down together, this is the most standard playable one. Just on its face, you know, like this is the one that you can read and intuitively be like, oh yeah, you're so strong, dude. Oh my God. I think Archmage was fun. I think that Archmage is really annoying. And I think that's what we're looking at with this. Now, is it as good as, say, Tishana's Tidebinder? Now, they're different cards, but they're both 3-mana creatures that counter a thing when they come in. This actually counters a thing that's on the stack. Now, it doesn't give you the sort of card advantage that would normally be inherent because they draw the card, right? But Por qué no los dos, right? But if you're in Fairy specifically, this is your 3-drop Fairy. It has Flash. There's been a shockingly low amount of Flash Fairies in this set, but the couple that we've seen have looked incredible. We saw this one today, and then yesterday we saw the 2-mana Fairy that when it comes into play, it like gives one of your creatures 4/4 base PT till end of turn. I think that guy is wacky good. I think that guy's really, really, really like subtly, extremely very good. I think that not everyone's going to see it, but I think that guy's crazy. And this guy's way up there too. This guy's serious. If you can untap with this on the table, then you're just like unstoppable for the rest of the game. Especially if you can get another counter on it. Like you can remove a counter from it, a -1/-1 counter from it to counter a non-creature spell. And then somehow, some way, put a +1/+1 counter on it. You just feel unstoppable at that point. Just a crazy magic card. Seriously. But next is Moon Shadow. This is a single black mana for a 7/7 elemental with menace. This creature enters with 6 -1/-1 counters on it. Whenever one or more permanent cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, while this creature has a -1/-1 counter on it, remove a -1/-1 counter from this creature. So it's 1 mana for a 1/1 elemental with menace. Yeah. However good you think this is, it's better. Yeah. That's a pretty good way of putting it. That's kind of true of the counter fairy as well. This, I think what this is trying to remind you of sideways is probably Death's Shadow, right? Like a really big black 1-drop that actually starts off small and you have to do something to make it larger. This is insanity. This is absolutely insane. Yeah, yep, there we go. Yeah, it works with mill, discard, surveil, all that. All that. Mill, discard, surveil, just creatures getting sacrificed, creatures dying in combat, obviously, right? Also, do note that tokens touch the graveyard. So, if you sacrifice a treasure, or a clue, or a whatever, so keep that in mind. Tokens touch the graveyard. So, that will also count. Yeah, that's why it has shadow in its name. Exactly. See, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, 1 mana, 1/1 menace is already too good. Oh, yeah, tokens aren't cards. It does. Oh, you got me. I just thought it said permanents. You got me. A joyous respite. Thank you for that. I just read permanents, but yeah, it's whenever one or more permanent cards. You got me. Good job. So, excuse me, treasure tokens don't work. Treasure tokens do not work. It has to be cards. So good call. That is how that works. That is how that works. But yeah, anything that self-mills. People in chat are already pointing out Cash Grab, the Dredge Enchantment. Yeah. If you hadn't called it the Dredge Enchantment, I'd remember what it was called. Yeah, the 1 and a green, it costs 2 mana, puts cards in your graveyard, you get a permanent out. That thing. Dredger's Insight. Bang. That's what it's called. But anything like that, this works insanely well with. If we ever get anything like a Stitcher's Supplier or something like that, this will be a banger. Like, obviously. Works good with like Molt Tender, which can put a card in your yard every turn. There are so many things that mill you like 2, 3, 4, 5 cards when it comes into play. This is going to be pretty decent with, man. If you just play it on turn 1 as a 1/1, I guess that's fine. Starting on turn 3, this should be a 4/4 pretty easily. Really should be a 4/4. So it works for food. No, nope, I shouldn't have ever said that. I didn't catch that this says cards. This says permanent cards. Tokens aren't cards. She got me on that, or Joyous Respite got me on that. They are right. They are right. Tokens are not cards. So treasures don't work, clues, food, whatever. Has to be a card and not a token. But there's still plenty of other things, just anything that goes from really the mill. The mill is the big one. Anything that goes from your library to your graveyard is going to make this huge. Turn 2 Overlord of the Baelmerk, right? I mean, it's turn 1 this, turn 2 Overlord, win the game. Just insane, dude. Insane. So probably going to be playing a lot of this little lady. This pretty girl right here, if I had to guess. Really good card. Could be legacy playable, I think, but I don't want to go crazy or anything, but it could very easily be legacy playable, man. Next is Catharsis, as we kind of near the end of the cards for the day. Had to happen eventually, sorry. Catharsis is 6 mana, 4 and then 2 Boros hybrids for a 3/4 elemental incarnation. When this creature enters, if double white was spent to cast it, you get 2 1/1 green and white Kithkins. When this creature enters, if double red was spent to cast it, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. This has Evoke for 2 Boros hybrids. So this is supposed to remind you, I guess thematically at least, this flavor, not flavor-wise, but like the function, it's supposed to remind you like an Imidane's Recruiter, right? What it reminds me of as far as the flavor, when I look at the card, it reminds me of the first boss in Final Fantasy VI. The big snail thing they have to fight in the mines. But anyway, this is probably pretty decent, right? Am I being crazy here? I mean, if you do have it in the late game, then suddenly, how much are you actually dealing worth of damage just on this one card? 4, 5, 6, 8? Yeah, you're swinging 8 haste if you spend 6 mana for this, and like 2 of it's white, 2 of it's red. Yeah, just off the top of your deck. 8 damage all at one time. But obviously, if you're just spending the double red on it, that can be really good. It's like a first day of class or an effect like that, right? And first day of class has been a playable modern card before. And it's been a playable commander card as well. I think it still costs a couple of bucks to get a first day of class right now. And this card is just kind of that. And on the other hand, it's also Gather the Township or whatever. It's one of those dragon fodder, just 2 mana for 2 guys. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, the Welk. Yeah, that's exactly Final Fantasy VI. It was, in fact, the Welk. But yeah, man, I think this is like kind of phenomenal. I've liked every single one of these like mythic hybrid colored evoke elementals. I don't know. There's probably a name for these cycles, but I've liked every single one of them, and I'm not going to stop now. I think this is pretty decent, especially when we do lose Recruiter. I think Recruiter's the better card for the most part, but yeah, I can say I like this and not be embarrassed. I'll put it that way. Twilight Diviner is our final card of the day. This card is bananas. Oh my, I almost cursed. The card is insane, bro. So hold on, let me take a sip. Twilight Diviner. This costs 3 mana, 2 and a black, for a 3/3 Elf Cleric. When it enters, Surveil 2. 3 mana, 3/3, Surveil 2 on enters. Okay. Incredible Pauline Voss art. Absolutely beautiful Pauline Voss art. Let's take a look at the rest of this. Whenever one or more other creatures you control enter the battlefield, if they entered or were cast from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of one of them. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's like they wanted to give me the card I would have designed anyway. Now, I don't have to train for months or years on end, get involved in the pro Magic scene, fly here or there and pay my own airfare and, scrub out 6 events in a row. Finally, after the 3rd year of this, winning an invitational tournament or a world championship or something like that. I don't have to do that. I don't have to win a massive tournament. They're just gonna give me my card anyway. Why settle for one Crater Hoof? Right. Why settle for one giant man of any type, Why settle for one smallish man of any type? Do you understand? I know it's once a turn, and they did that so you couldn't do any kind of like weird loops or infinite combos. Understand the power level of this card in Commander? Do you you understand that this is only 3 mana? It's crazy engine in Commander. I don't know about Standard. I honestly don't. I don't know about Standard. 3 mana is a lot. But for 4 mana, you could always play this and Helping Hand on the same turn. And like, yikes. That seems like a good call right there. There are things that like swing in and reanimate a creature. We reviewed one in this video. So like it's possible to get value off of this the turn that you play it. It's easy enough, Just what an insane line of text. I can't believe that line of text is on a card. That's crazy. Like timeline color kind of, works. So you can warp it from your graveyard with its ability. Somebody already said Bloodghast in the chat. There are a number of creatures just bring themselves back from the graveyard. Like you don't need a reanimator spell. It's insane. It's so crazy. Just insane. Lively Dirge, Victimize, Unearth, Helping Hand, Recommission, just any small reanimator spell that brings stuff back in the yard. A copy of it? A copy? Are you serious right now? A copy of it? It's wild, dude. That's so wild. And now we have Zuko's Conviction, and another card that reanimates stuff at instant speed and Standard. So like if you use those cards and you have this on the table, like reanimate something, you get a copy of it on your opponent's turn. Like, it's just, oh my God, dude. Dude. Yeah, wait, they're permanent. Yeah, they don't leave. You don't sacrifice it at end of turn. That my head tried to do that exact same shorthand. The Cantho. Yep. My creatures. My head did the same thing. Like, oh, it's going to say that you sacrifice at end of turn. You don't. You just keep them forever. What's insane? That's insane that it does what it does. I think it could be Standard playable. I really do. I think that there's worlds where, again, like this plus Helping Hand, the turn it comes into play, is good enough. But this is going in every Commander deck. Like I play Victimize in like every Commander deck I've ever built that has swamps, right? So like I'm gonna play this card. I've got some sort of recursive element in every Commander deck I've ever built. So, God, jeez Louise, it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. There's no, other than once a turn, there's no restriction either. There's no like, oh, it's got to be a creature 3 mana value or less. None of that. No. Just go hog wild. And I will. I will, dude. Yeah, for 3 mana, the Cantho says for 3 manatees. Hell yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This card is wild. This card is wild. I tell you. Raise hell and praise Dale. This card is wild. So, oh, yes, it's Standard playable. Yeah, I honestly want to say that it is. I want to say right off the bat, I think this card is Standard playable. I want it to be. We'll see, because I'm still not like super convinced. But, I mean, if it stays in play more than a turn or two, like, imagine the value. Imagine the value. So I don't know, man. This is my favorite card of the day, and it's not close. It's not even close, dude. We saw some good uncommons and some halfway decent rares. And this might be like, I don't know if it's my favorite card from the set, but so far it is like one of the cards. It's like one of the only cards that I've seen that I immediately was like, day one, take my money. I'm ordering that card. I need that right now for all my decks. That's the card I need. And like, there's been a couple of cards like that I've seen, but this is the one that's hit me like with the strongest, like, that card will be mine. Like immediate, as soon as possible, that card's mine. So I got to give it some props for that at the very least. Vicious 007, thanks for the Prime sub just now. First time you've subbed with Prime. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We got one, everybody. We got him. Yeah, they killed a guy from my Reanimator deck. No. Yeah, you're just going to get it right back. You got to copy it, Oh, hey, yeah, and it's a cleric too. That's pretty sick. That is chat. It's actually a good call. Being cleric is good. Being elf is good too, for that matter. I'm just going to yell about this guy Seinfeld style. And being elf is good too. So what else do you want? I don't know. I can't do a Seinfeld. Everybody in the world can do a Seinfeld, and I just can't. What about airline food? See, it's not how Seinfeld sounds. Anyway. Nova Raven 86 with the follow. Thank you very much. 86. One of my favorite numbers, the Toyota Corolla AE86, my favorite car of all time, because I'm a Mark and a Rube. And if an anime tells me that a car is good, I'll just, oh, that's a good, the 86 Corolla, that's a good car. This probably wasn't. But it is one of my favorite cars. But anyway, y'all, Twitch people, stick around for another, I don't know, like minute after this. But YouTube people, you're still watching. You're 2 hours in the video. You're still watching this, right? I promise this wasn't a speed run. This is the opposite of a speed run. I talked for as long as I wanted to, obviously. But YouTube people, thanks for being with us. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. You've been here for long enough at this point. So have fun in a few days when we come back to rate all of these exact same cards. Then it will be a speed run. But anyway, y'all, if you're on YouTube watching right now, I appreciate you making it through the entire video. Don't know how many sittings it took. Are you done cleaning the kitchen yet? Just let me know in the comments. But anyway, hit the button shaped like a thumb down there. You can subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to $140. We're at $139. Shouldn't take too much longer. I have 139 subs. Anyway, do the other stuff if you want to reward all the hard work and the fact that my voice is going out and I still have to get back on stream and do a 5-hour speed run stream in a few days. If you want to reward the hardest working man in show business, $1 a month is all it takes on patreon.com/SBMTG. I would appreciate it because it's the only real way I get paid for doing the work that I do. And damn it, I deserve it at this point. But anyway, I love you all on YouTube. Twitch people, again, special message for you before I get out of here. I will see you all again very soon. I am Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.